The strike is now in its fourth week. If you're wondering what strike, I mean that embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Nigeria's tertiary institutions have been shut down since the lecturers went on strike. And there have been questions as to what progress has been made. They went on a one-month warning strike, which is now in its fourth week. And there were hopes that perhaps, given the time frame, they would have been able to sort out the matters which ASUU had raised before the expiration of this one-month warning strike. We asked this morning just how much progress has been made. We're joined in our Abuja studios by the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm just wondering where we currently are at. I mean, we've had there's been a number of meetings while this strike has gone on. You have said, I think in the very first week, you said that the strike didn't need to extend beyond a week if government was serious, that a host of things which you're asking for could be sorted out within a matter of weeks. But this is almost the end of the one-month warning strike which you gave, and it doesn't look like there is light, or the light maybe at the end of this tunnel still looks very, very far away. Can you tell us what progress, if any, has been made since you started the strike?
Well, thank you very much. This is the fourth week, and in 2 days' time, the 4 weeks warning strike would have been over, and then my member will meet to take full action. But I can assure you, nothing tangible has happened, nothing visible, nothing you can say they have done. We've met with the Minister of Labour twice, and all they are saying is the same old promises that they've been talking about. We will do the timeline. We have been on that since 2020, and nothing. But till now, nothing tangible has been done. If you recall that we would have started that strike in November, but because of the intervention of NIREC, Nigerian Inter-Religion Council, we gave a room for them to intervene, and they did. They met with the president on 1st of February and raised this issue with the president. And the president promised they will address them. I appointed, I think, a 3 or 4 man committee to quickly look at it. The Chief of Staff, Minister of Labour, Minister of Education, and I think Minister of Finance, to look at it. It was all over the country. But still, that committee had not called us for any meeting. The Minister of Labour, just as usual, have done his own, called meetings with nothing tangible to show. As at now, absolutely nothing tangible has been done. And our members have decided that, look, we'll be signing MOU, MOA, and nothing is happening, that this time we should not. Let's see some sign of what has been done. And now, absolutely nothing has been done.
Well,
that's where we are.
Okay, so you said nothing has been done. It's not for, some people say, is it for lack of effort? Is it that, are there problems? I mean, are there constraints? And if there are, what are the constraints? We know that government says that they would like to take a second look at the 2009 negotiation. There are now talks that perhaps the terms of agreements reached at that time were terms that were going to be very difficult to fulfill in the first instance. How has ASUU welcomed the new committee which federal government has set up to take a second look at the 2009 negotiated agreement?
Well, is it part of the lack of will, lack of interest in the public university system? And that's what you have. We finished that negotiation in May 2021. That is 10 months ago. And both sides agreed that ASUU would revert back to his member to look at it, whether they will agree with it. And government team reverted back to their government, to their principal, to give the permission to sign, or if there are issues, they should raise it. 10 months. Nothing happened. Now we started the strike. You say you are putting a new committee to look at it. Does it really sound that people who are interested? This issue, like I said, can be resolved in one meeting. Even if that committee they set up 2 weeks ago have been serious, in one meeting we'll resolve all the issues. If you have issues you disagree with, you bring to the table. But we have not been called to a meeting by that committee.
These issues seem to remain vague. Part of what we know is this question of IPIS versus UTAS.
Yes.
Federal government talks about using IPIS. ASUU says, no, we are bringing up UTAS, or we have brought up UTAS, and we think that this is a better platform to pay us. And it looks like that has not been accepted. Maybe there was some compromise at some point, but now we're hearing from NITDA that UTAS did not pass an integrity test. And these are some of the things that are currently happening, are coming up as a result. What exactly, from some of the issues that have come forth, what is constituting the biggest hurdle for us to really be able to call this off once and for all?
Thank you very much. When you now have dishonesty in a system, you have those problems. We listened to the report by NIDA that they didn't pass a test, but I came with documentation to show their report. If a program is subject to a test and it scores 77%, will you say it failed? If a system is passed through end user test and it scores 88%, will you say it failed? And they are here, their report. That's why I brought them. So Nigerians will see. This is the report. This is summary of the report. NIDA. A total of 687 issues were tested. The solution we have passed 529, according to them, and failed 156. If you do the mathematics, it's 77%. But that's not even the issue.
What's your verdict there?
It should be passed. It's A+. Any program that's called A+, it's a pass. But if there are issues you didn't understand, you will come back to this other party and say, which is what we are doing now. When we met with the Minister of Labour, they raised this issue. And we're able to show that what they are saying, this 56 did not pass, is not correct. That they didn't understand the speciality, the structure of the university system when they were testing, which we are doing now, and the thing is going on. And we were surprised, why were the Minister of Labour, we all agreed that this thing was not correct, that this thing they say failed was not correct. They even went ahead and printed things that had nothing to do with it and pasted. And at that reconciliation meeting, we agreed that we and they should go and they should do the test while we are there, our technical team, and then we should have special and independent observer from Ministry of Labour, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Finance, the National Salary, Income and Wages Commission, that they should all be there to monitor the process. That was going on. The DG of NIDA will never attend any meeting. The Minister of Communication will never attend any meeting. But these are people who were not there when these were discussed. People were not properly briefed. They've gone to brief FEC that this did pass, which is not correct. When you subject it to what we are doing now, we will have 99%. But he went ahead to tell the country a lie. And this is why they are creating problems in this country. It is very clear here. I will show you the next one. When we finish the testing, when they finish with us, then this document we have presented to the Senate President, to the Accountant General, this document, to end user the VCs, they say we must present it to people who will use it to implement for the payment, which we agreed. And we presented in NUC. Somebody from bursary in payment, somebody from registry, the Human Resource Department. And they did the test. I will read their result to you. It's here. The first question they asked, end users experience. Is the system user-friendly? You can look at it. 95% say yes. Of those who tested, 95%. The next question they asked them, are you satisfied with the system? 88.6% said yes. The next one, would you recommend the system for adoption in your institution? 88.9% said yes. Then finally, is the overall performance of the system satisfactory? 83.3% said yes. The end user, people who use it, who understand the system. This is what we have. And the director of NIDA have gone on air to say he did not pass a test. 2, our own idea as a union is to develop a system, not to house it. And we all agree, even with NIDA, that this process will be housed in NUC, National University Commission, who will control it. And they are going on air to say ASUU has not provided database. Is it our business? I want you to provide a system, and it's a government will use it. And with this system, if really implemented Nigerian university system, the president can one day say, I want to look at what happened in UI. He key into the system, and for the next 5 years or so, he will see what happened in UI, what is the recruitment procedure, and what have you. A standard system. But what do? They prefer to use IPs. We also asked NIDA, when IPs, a foreign system was brought to this country, did you test it? They said no. Have you tested it in the past 13 years that I've been working? They said no. So you brought a foreign process to this country, developed by a company in somewhere outside the country, and they brought it to your country to use to pay your salary. You didn't test it. But the one developed by your academics, your intellectuals, score almost 80–90%. You say you didn't integrity. So where is the integrity of IPs? Can they tell Nigerian people, let NIDA and the government tell Nigerian people whether they have tested IPs? And the result is very clear. Not just we. Yesterday or 2 days ago, NECO staff said 246 members have not been paid since 2015 on IPs. Not with this time, we use us as an example. In the universities, a lot of our members have been paid. Professor, you wake up one morning and you are paid 40,000. And what are they trying to do? To please the government. No, the government is banditing that with the IPs we have saved 100 billion per annum. Know what they are doing? They cut my salary, cut your own, cut everybody's own. And at the end, they present that we have saved money. Meanwhile, there are people's money you didn't pay. And that is the fraud going on in IPs. And that fraud was well reported by the Auditor General of the Federation. And they're hiding the report. We challenge this government to publish that report of the Auditor General report of 2019. And Nigeria will see the fraud that's going on. And you will not have said what I prepared by you that have passed through all the processes of tests. So that is the problem we're having.
Is this the biggest bone of contention?
That is just one. Why I'm emphasizing is that they have gone to poison Nigerian mind that this system failed, which is a lie. And I will challenge them to come for a contest. We have told them, let's test the two, IPs and this together. They refused. We did it on our own. The report is on air now, it's in the media. We did it on our own. And you know what? UTAS, our own, score A+. 110 over 100. Why did I score F?
You say this is one of the issues.
The other
I'm asking if this is the biggest issue.
No. It's just one of the issues, but it's very fundamental.
Okay.
Because our members are disenchanted. With this system, no lecturer will come from abroad to teach in Nigerian university. None. Because you can't be coming from a professor coming from UK, from Ghana, and enter Nigeria and say, take your vehicle, go to Abuja, or take a plane, go to Abuja, go and register on a piece, standing in front of a clerical officer to register. They will not come. So it's very fundamental. If we don't change this, it will destroy the system. Because no sound-minded will want to teach Nigeria. Even the good one will start living, and they're already living. If you look at Nigeria today, we have less than 70,000 lecturers in all Nigerian universities, private, state, and federal, because they are leaving. And none is coming back because of this system. That is the problem we're having with this system. That's why we emphasize it, because it's the key to all of them. Two, we have issue of renegotiation. We negotiated with government in 2009 and signed an agreement. That agreement encompasses a number of things. They only implemented just one session. All of that's outstanding. I would say, and the agreement we indicated that every 3 years we will renegotiate based on the exchange rate and what have you. 2009, it is 13 years by this month, we have not renegotiated. We started the process in 2017, and the government came in with this bogus thing that for us to agree on an agreement, we must allow Nigerian students to pay 1 million naira as school fees, which we resisted. You are in a country where the minimum wage is 30,000, and you want the student to pay a fee of 1 million. And we resisted it, and that made this agreement, this negotiation, it lasted from 2017 to 2021, when they removed that man who was pushing it. Remember, Babalaki? And we reached an agreement. And we would have thought that we would have gone back. Within 1 or 2 months, they will come back. If there are issues, we look at them. But we have been told in February 2022 that they have set a committee to renegotiate it. They are getting Nigerian, they are destroying this country, because without good education, the country will not go anywhere.
Let's flip this conversation to my colleagues in Lagos. Gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Markwe. Well, Prof, one of the issues raised by the DG of NIDA is where will they put UTAS? For instance, one of the comments ascribed to him says, okay, for IPs, we have a data center built for it. ASUU, where are we going to put UTAS? That means we need to have the data center and also check to ensure that it meets the minimum requirements. Because if you put people's information and the system crashes, how can you pay them salaries? Are you aware of this, and what's your response to it?
My response is very clear. IPs.
Go ahead.
IPs that they talked about, where is the data center base? The data center was created by the Office of Accountant General, and it's in the Office of Accountant General, a government center being used by a private company. That is a piece. For us, from the beginning, we agreed that it's not ASUU's. When we finished, it's not ASUU is not going to implement it. It's the government that is going to implement it using the organization that coordinates all universities' activity in Nigeria, which is National University Commission, NUC. And the NUC agreed 100% that they will create the center and fund it and ensure it operates very well. And this same group, this is how we are so angry with this. These same people, NIDA, in process of testing, visited the NUC data center, and they didn't have a problem with it. So we are surprised that the director of NIDA is talking about data center. We are developing a solution that will give to government and will be housed by NUC, which have accepted that they will house it and provide all the needed to ensure it runs fluently. So we are surprised that the director of NIDA is coming again to say, where will ASUU house the problem? We house the UTAS. It's laughable, which means they are not following the process. I want to advise the director of NIDA, attend the meetings on UTAS. That's your responsibility. You don't stay somewhere and then you go out and issue a statement that is not related to what your people are doing with us.
In the process of developing...
So the center will be housed in NUC, funded by NUC.
Okay.
Yes.
In the process of developing this solution, did ASUU in any way confer with NIDA in the development of UTAS, just to ensure that at least we can cut off some bureaucracy?
Thank you very much. We remember in 2020 when we were on strike, we told the government that IPC is not working, and we have all agreed that we can develop alternative. And this is 2014. The idea, they ran away. They came back 2017 to force it on us. That we'll develop alternatives for you, but give us 4 months, we'll do that. And we have developed it. And when we met with them in 2020, December, they told us that for that program to be implemented, it has to be tested by NIDA, which we agreed. And we gave that project to NIDA in March 2021 for testing. March 2021 for testing. They brought the report in January 2022. More than 10 months later. So it took them 10 months to test. And they came with the result, which I provided this year. It's very clear that by their own idea, the program scored 77%, which is wrong because we have gone through it and found out it's not correct. And then we now agree, because of this disagreement, the Minister of Labor and Employment, and we must commend him, said that we should now stay together and look through the system. This area they say failed, so that we can correct them if there's any. and to ensure that it's transparent, that there should be observers from the Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Finance, NUC, and what have you, that they will all be there to ensure that the program is well monitored. Which we are doing perfectly. We are doing perfectly. We are working very harmoniously together. But while we are doing this, the head of that same NIDA went on air to say it has failed. That is what's getting my members angry. What is not correct?
Well, Prof, I know there's been some back and forth between ASUU and the minister who's in charge of NIDA, and I know you've spoken about that. You say that you think that this is some sort of vengeance or something like that. But going back to what the DG of NIDA said about the integrity test that was conducted on UTAS. Now you said that they wrote reports and forwarded them to, the different stakeholders involved, including ASUU. And according to him, he says, as we speak now, ASUU is working on trying to fix all the issues we highlighted with the system, and they say we'll review it. He says that NIDA will review it again. Can you confirm that indeed ASUU is trying to review and work on areas that were pointed out in UTAS, and you're billed for another review, or do I call it integrity test?
You see, that's what I've just talked about. We have done the whole job. When they were doing their test, this test they talked about, because they don't understand what the university structure is. They don't understand what the peculiarity in the university structure, they designate certain things as being not correct. And we have started this meeting since Monday, since Tuesday, I'm sorry, with all the observers in place. What that is going, instead of the director of NIDA to be there and look at what is happening, he has gone on air to FEC to say this thing failed, without waiting for what is in process. Because if two sides are working on a document, we are assessing a document, should one side go on air to say it has failed when we have not finished the process? And that's what the director of NIDA and the Minister of Communication have done. We were still looking this by working together with their team. We are still going there today for that meeting. And the minister has gone on air to tell us it has failed. Instead of getting the report from his team.
Just to be clear, does that mean that you're
and that's
still...
why we believe these are done, these things are done, are just trying to rubbish an issue on personal ground.
Okay, Prof, we're due for a break in about a minute. But before we go on break, I just need to confirm, does that mean that ASUU is indeed still trying to work on UTAS to block those loopholes, as it were? Are you still developing or upgrading UTAS?
No, there's nothing wrong with UTAS.
So you're done on your side with UTAS, am I right?
We are true. It's still with them. We are now going through one by one to ensure that those areas they didn't understand, they will not put them through. Let me give you an example. When you have a university, they have option of having collegiate system or faculty system. That is it. So some universities have college. We operate college. University of Nigeria and faculty. But in their testing, when they see college, they say it is wrong. When they see the word college as the head of the academic unit, they say it is wrong. But it's not correct. It's in the program. Because some universities have colleges, some have faculties. So those are the things we are now educating them on.
Prof, we're due for a break now, but we're not in any way done with this conversation because it's a big one. So we'll go to break and we'll come back to some of the major issues on this one. Please stay with us.
As we speak now, ASUU are reworking, trying to fix all the issues we highlighted with the system, and we'll review it again. But that is just one half of the story. The second half of the story also, we need to find where to put that system. Like IPPIS, we have a data center built for it. ASUU, where are we going to put it? That means we need to have the data center, and also that data center we need to check to make sure it meets minimum requirement. Because if you put people's information and the system crashes, how can you pay them salary?
Well, that's the DG of NIDA speaking with press at the State House just some days ago. And we've been speaking with Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who's been responding to that one. Professor Osodeke is the president of ASUU. 2 days to go on that 4-week warning strike. But let me just quickly refer back to what the DG of NIDA said, and just to clear the air as well on that one. So eyepiece, we understand, I mean, from what you have said also, was procured by the federal government. What will it cost the federal government with UTAS in terms of, what do I say, procurement, in terms of getting a data center in place? Just what's the quantum of funds we're looking at to get this running, if indeed we will get it running?
Thank you very much. The truth is that this is developed by academics in Nigerian universities. 2, the Nigerian University Commission have agreed to host the center, and they are ready. They have all that you need to host it, as confirmed by their team. The issue they were raising on NUC, you can call the ESN to talk to you on this. The issue they were raising by NUC are things like fire extinguisher, computer, trained personnel. These are things you will get when you have accepted the program. You have not accepted the program, you say, go and employ personnel. The data center is ready in NUC. All the NUC will do once this program is accepted is that they will get people in from universities to enable them develop that place, put it, host the document, and that's all. It will cost this country little or nothing. But if you watch eyepiece, as I speak to you, on my behalf, on every staff in Nigeria, the federal government is paying on an annual basis money to eyepiece for running salary on every staff. The federal government is paying in hard currency on every staff for running IPs. Transferring the money outside the country. But what we have developed is local content as being preached by the government, by the academics, and that you can host in Nigeria, and you don't have to employ Nigeria to run, and then you don't have a problem. So that is the difference between them. And two, very critically, like I said earlier, we have tested ASUU, the UTAS, and it's working. You didn't test the other one, and it's not working as you have seen from the general report. So that is the difference. So there is no problem at all. I am surprised that the director of NIDA is saying that where will data be hosted, asking ASUU, which means he has not been following this process. If he didn't even read the report by his committee. Because when you read the report by the committee, their visit to NUC was well indicated. The facilities available in NUC, when they visited, was where they went twice, were well documented. And the director did not know that all this, which means he didn't read the report. He's speaking without looking at the report submitted by his team. It's so unfortunate. That is the type of people we have heading a center like NIDA. You didn't read your own report. The report is available. We'll make it available to Nigerians. What they reported on data center. It's not our duty. I wanted to create the solutions.
Well,
and
Prof,
the federal government
will
host it.
It is sad that this
coordinated by NUC.
It is sad that this back and forth is ongoing. ASUU, NIDA, the Ministry, Labor, Education, and there are students out there. In fact, some of them, when this strike started on February the 14th, they tried to hang around the schools, thinking and hoping that the strike would end after the first week. But the first week came, second week, third week. Now we're in the fourth week. And I just want to jump ahead and ask you, 2 days to the end of the 4 weeks that were declared for warning strike, should the students just wait till Monday and expect that studies will resume since this 4 weeks lapses on Sunday?
Thank you. Like we said, this strike didn't need to last more than 1 week. If the government had taken it serious, if those who were mandated to resolve the problem were serious, like I told you, the president mandated 4 ministries, Chief of Staff, Minister of Labor, Minister of Education, and Minister of Finance to resolve this issue as quickly as possible. Till now, they have not met with us. They have not even called for a meeting. So if they were serious in resolving the issue, it will not last more than 3 days. But now this is the 4th week, and nothing has been done. So what do you do? But when we had little problem, when they had problem in Ukraine, when this country had problem in Ukraine, where the son of the rich are schooling, it did take them 2 days to bring out $8.something million to go and recover, bring people home. It didn't take them too long at all to get $8.something million to go and get those people home. But our students in Nigeria are all at home, are in school, because of minor issue. It's taking 4 weeks and the government is not responding. That is our system. Because those are the children of the rich, children of those people who are in power, you bring them home immediately. But the children of the ordinary Nigerians who are on the street, who are on this Nigerian here, who cannot afford to go outside, 4-week strike, for minor issues we can resolve within 1 week, they are not interested.
So my question, Prof, is that...
tragedy of Nigerian university system.
So still back to my question, Prof. Can those students here in Nigeria resume to school, resume their studies on Monday, since the warning strike elapses on Sunday?
We also have a system. The system, we follow the system. The strike was declared by the NEC of ASUU. The NEC will meet at the expiration of the 4 weeks, review what has happened, and take its decision. We don't take decision for our members. Our members decide what they want to do.
But then the committee set up by the federal government has 3 months to work. Does that mean there is a likelihood that the strike will continue until the issues are resolved?
Let me ask the committee and Nigeria this problem. If you have reached an agreement in May 2021, a draft agreement has been produced, and government has been holding a copy of that agreement from May 2021 till today. If they are really serious, do you need 3 months to look at that document and raise the issue you think are not correct and come to look at it? Do you need 3 months? When we met with the Minister of Labor, who was conciliating 3 weeks ago, he told us they will finish that process in 6 weeks. Now, the Minister of Education, the same people who are working together, have told the world they will finish in 3 months. Why will it take a 3 months to review what you have done and then sign?
You know, the terms of reference of this committee is very telling. I'm looking at, I hope that we'll be able to, you know, put it up for our viewers, but A says, liaise and consult with relevant stakeholders to finalize the position of the federal government to the issues in the draft proposed FGN ASUU renegotiated settlement. Renegotiate in realistic, that's B now, in realistic and workable terms, the 2009 agreement with other university-based unions. It does look like there are terms that are unrealistic that have been set out. I mean, this is what I glean from the terms and conditions which this new committee now has to work with. There have been talks, and I think that there's, talking about revitalization, that part of what was reached was that it was going to cost about 1.1 trillion naira. And the federal government has said that it cannot afford, on a sustainable basis, that 1.1 trillion naira for revitalization. Is ASUU seeing this as a hurdle? And is it also trying to find ways around? Is it proposing solutions to say, okay, maybe given the current economic circumstances, this is another route through which you can achieve this figure more realistically?
You see, they should tell Nigerians the truth. The 1.3 trillion naira we arrived at in 2013, during the era of President Jonathan. And when we met with him in 2013, we said to a noble government able to release this money, let's spread it over 6 years. On yearly basis, release 220 billion naira to all the Nigerian university system.
That is minus salaries, minus
yes,
other...
Yes, why we did that?
No, I'm just trying to clarify for our audience, you know, what this amount is exclusive of.
Yes.
Minus salaries, minus other running expenses which accrue to universities, minus the funding that goes into TED Fund, an extra 220 billion naira.
Yes.
To just the tertiary.
Let me give you the idea how we arrived at that. When we freed regulation in 2009, and we raised this fund because our university are in a dilapidated state. When I was a student in Rivers State University of Science and Technology in 1984 to 87, in my department of crop and soil sciences, we have 5 nationals teaching in that department. We have somebody from Sierra Leone, Senegal, somebody from Ghana, somebody from Sri Lanka, somebody from Poland, teaching in one department. But today, you can't see any university you have up to 2 foreigner teaching because the system is bad. When I was a student, we have foreigner as students with us in the university. Just like you have Nigerian students all over the world. But today, you don't have any foreign student coming here because the system is bad. So the federal government said they don't believe what we said. They now set up a committee headed by Mahmoud Yakub, the present NINEC chairman, to go around all the universities and look at the state of the equipment and everything in the university. We went to one of the first generation university and they were using stove as Bunsen burner in a chemistry lab. We went to a university where you have 16 students staying in one room as hostel. Each of them have a stove. Where's the health situation? The committee, after all this, came out to say there's a need to put 1.3 trillion in all Nigerian universities. So when we met with the Goodluck Jonathan then as president, we agreed that let's spread it over 6 years. The first one was released in 2013. Since then, this government has already released 70 billion to revamp the system. Just like they pump money into Genco and Desco today, which they have sold out. They are pumping billion into it. We are spending billion on fuel subsidy, so-called fuel subsidy. Why can't you put 200 billion to revamp your university in a year? Is that too much? Is it up to what we are spending to revamp banks? To, what do you call it? The thing they be doing to banks and what have you. Is that too much? If you want to change your system, let me give you this. In the 70s, maybe you were there in the 80s, 70s, you will not hear a building collapsing in Nigeria. You will not. It doesn't, because you have the properly trained people, well, practical and what have you, running the ministry and what have you. Today, is there any day a building don't collapse? Because we are training people, we are not passing through the current process, no equipment to train them. Nigeria is paying for it.
So, Prof, perhaps in 2013, it might have been, 2013, we seemed awash with petrodollars. Crude oil prices were at an all-time high. It would seem that we spent a lot of it on subsidies and frivolities. I'm not very certain what we spent the money on, but this is now 2022. We've experienced a number of recessions in that time. We've experienced COVID. And this is currently where we are. Oil prices are just beginning to go up now. And instead of us to even be able to reap the benefits, we seem to be spending a lot of it again on subsidies and a lot of things that, you have to ask questions. And we're borrowing heavily. We see how much, we're spending a lot of it on debt servicing because of how much we're currently borrowing. For a number of people, they know that the country is currently in dire straits. Does ASUU acknowledge that?
We do completely. You see, when you look at when we met in 2017 on this issue, we and the government set up a committee of 7 men, headed by Muzali Jibril, to go and look for other sources of funding Nigerian university system, of raising this money. I was in that committee. We worked and submitted a report that you don't have to look for petroleum to raise this fund. We'll give you an example. At that time, we're talking about this stamp duty being managed by an individual then, though he's dead now. Take a percentage. We say, if that percentage you are doing, if you put it on the system, and take percentage of that stamp duty and use to fund, you raise this fund. And other duty, even this agreement we have reached, this one we talked about, when you look at it, we have also suggested ways of how to raise the fund. But in this accident, we don't depend on our local intellectuals. We want to get something from abroad. We are more interested in going to run and collect loan than looking for how to use our intellectual here, use our university, using this triple helix system to develop our system. No, we run abroad and collect loan. We run abroad and collect loan. As I speak to you, so we are giving more aid to US than US give to Nigeria. You ask me why. Nigeria will spend its money, train doctors, train academics here in this country. When they finish, they move away to go and teach abroad. Is it not true? Can you quantify how much Nigeria is losing on that? To US, in US, we not less than 30,000 Nigerian doctors in US train here. They don't pay. They don't pay to this country. Saudi Arabia recently, you saw them after the doctor strike and the Ministry of Education punished them, went to court, said you must call it strike. They left this country to Saudi Arabia. We are expecting them train here, and we are lacking doctors. So what I'm saying is that if these countries, look, Ghana give about 50 to 20% of their budget to education. South Africa is the same thing, and the one of the best universities in the country. We are giving 5.6%.
But we also know that education, even in those countries, are not cheap. Part of what the federal government has pushed for, you talked about the Wale Babalake committee, which also asked the students pay a bit more. Yeah. Is ASUU really against that?
We are saying this. What is the minimum wage in South Africa? What is the minimum wage in South Africa? It's more than the salary of a professor in Nigeria. So, that man can pay the fee. But you give somebody 30,000 naira as minimum wage and you say, come and pay 1 million as school fees.
So perhaps not 1 million. Are you against an increment?
The students are already paying. The students are already paying. In those countries, you go to university, you have hostels. In those countries, you have good hostels, standard hostels. You come to Nigeria, majority of students are living on their own in shanties. They're already paying.
Prof, you've also noticed that every time ASUU, maybe a truce is reached, you talk about 70 billion, which was released the other time by this government. We also will see that, the polytechnics too will come up. We also will see that NASU too will come up. These bodies too also require money. And it will seem that those monies are not captured in what ASUU is asking for. You've talked about 220 billion, and you say, is that too much? But there'll be questions as to, what is going to happen to these other bodies? Are they captured in the 220
Whatever
which you're talking
ASUU
about?
is asking for is for the Nigerian university system. It's
Yeah.
not about
It's not-
ASUU.
that's what
The
I'm
money
saying.
released is
It's
not
not captured.
the money released not released to ASUU.
It's not capturing the entirety of Nigeria's tertiary education system.
Good. But
It is just for the university system.
Yes. What is 200 billion? Convert it to dollar. Convert 200 billion naira to dollar.
You just complained about $8.1 million, which was released.
That's what I'm saying. I said
to bring back Nigerian
yes,
students.
yes.
That is about 8.4 billion naira. I mean, that 8.1 billion. So I'm trying to even wrap around my head. That's
yes.
$8.4 million or $8.1 million, which was released. It's about $8.4 billion. I'm trying to, I beg your pardon, naira. I'm trying to imagine what 200 billion.
Yes.
Per annum will be for just universities. It's not capturing all tertiary institutions.
Let me tell you.
It's not capturing polytechnics.
Let me tell you, this country, to do a railway line from Kaduna or Abuja to Niger, Nigeria is spending 1.7 trillions of naira. And we are saying education, the most critical sector in the world. If you want to develop your country, education is more critical. What is 200 billion? It's less than 1% of federal allocation fund, well, fact fund. Less than 1%. It's less than 1% in a year. Why can't this country say, look, to solve this problem, let's devote 2% of fact allocation to education, whether at the state, at the federal, whatever. And you solve that problem. If you believe that education is important, just 2%. I'm not going to part 10. 2%. Say we are taking 2%. You know what they give to NDDC? That nothing is happening. Let's take 2% and say, let's put it to solve this problem. 2%. You resolve all these problems. So funding is not the problem. The problem is the will. And very critically, the problem is those who run this system. They are strangers in this country. Their children are all abroad. Their family are abroad. So whether people are in school or they are not in school, whatever, it does not concern them. If their children are here in these schools, in these universities, if their relatives are all here in these universities, they will give 10% of fake money to solve those problems. But they are not here, so it doesn't bother them. You see them during convocation, how they stand with their children so proud. Have you seen any of these people standing with their children so proud in Nigerian university, except in Ngige, who is the Minister of Labour? Have you seen any? At
least it's somebody. Let's quickly go to my colleague. Kaide has a question.
Thank you, Markwe. Prof, just on a final note, I've been thinking this. Will it be a fair proposal to say, you know what, how about we take the monies we're trying to budget for subsidy, right? What, 3.5 trillion or thereabouts. We don't even know how much it will come to. And put all of that in our education sector and tell Nigerians that this is a sacrifice worth making, because if anything the government has consistently said is that they don't have the funds, as it were. And we know that subsidies staring us in the face is something we have to do at least for the next 18 months, depending on what is approved. So would that be a fair proposal to take that money, invest it in our education sector, and tell Nigerians this is a sacrifice we must make if we want to train our future leaders optimally? Does that make sense?
Thank you very much. We as a union, ASUU, we don't believe there is subsidy. If there is honest subsidy, we will not be talking about subsidy today. If Niger can build a refinery, Niger, they don't have access to crude, can build a refinery. Is it a request science to build a refinery? Does it take 1.3 trillion naira to build a refinery? So we don't believe in it. It's just people working and making all sorts of things for this country. If you tax the academics, within 1 year, we'll build a refinery for this country. But we are not thinking about refinery, we are thinking of subsidy importing. Does it make sense that I'm a farmer, I plant yam, and I have so many yam in my barn, but at the end, when I want to eat yam, I'll go and buy from somewhere at a high cost? Does it make sense that we have all the crude since 1950-something till now? Those who were running this country initially built up to 4 refineries. And for more than 20 years now, since this civilian regime, we have been talking about subsidy, about the importation of fuel, not building a single refinery. I think we need to ask ourselves the question, is there really subsidy? So what we are suggesting, if we can cut down on our cost, we like traveling abroad. This one, you saw recently a lady outside with all the Nigerian ladies there doing birthday. So if we cut down on this issue of frivolous things we are doing, traveling abroad, building houses abroad, and all of you, we will come back and develop Nigeria as a country. We have no other country. Your children are there, they will come back. So my advice is that the easiest way for them to do, let the federal executive, the government and the states and whatever meet, and agreed that we to solve this problem over the next 6 years, let's release 1 or 2% of the federal allocation fund, I don't know what they call it, to fund education, primary, secondary, and university over 6 years and resolve this issue. That's all. Very easy. You don't need to go and be shouting. You don't need to go and look for how we raise the money. Just say we are giving 1 or 2% of that money to fund education, state or federal.
And I certainly know that there will be legal issues around that from what we've seen in other issues. But we do hope that this issue will be resolved as quickly as possible and that our students will be able to go back to school as soon as possible too. Prof, thank you for never shying away from speaking on the issues. Thank you so much also for the work you do with ASUU. Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. Professor Emmanuel Osodeke is the President, Academic Staff Union of Universities, and he's been speaking with us here in our Abuja studios. We'll take a break and we'll be back to consider another issue in just a moment. Please stay with us.
There have been a lot of reactions to pictures that surfaced online at an event held at the National Correctional Facility in Lagos as part of activities to mark the 2022 International Women's Day. And, well, let's just go ahead and have a discussion around it. We've already seen him. What are the rules guiding such operations, such activities in the prisons? What are the terms of reference for such things? Is this something that is covered within our laws? GT Ogunye joins us this morning. He is a legal practitioner. Thanks for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
And I'm also certain that you've seen that release from the correctional facility stating reasons why that happened. It's a lot of activities, quiz, traditional dance, including this fashion beauty pageant. What do you make of it?
Well, I've not read the release by the Nigerian Correctional Institution, but I can understand the furore and the controversy the matter has generated thus far. The lady in question, Chidinma Ojukwu, in the public eye and in the mind of the public, is alleged to have committed a horrendous crime, a capital punishment crime. And given the role the social media played in the public assessment of presumed guilt or otherwise, pictures like this offend the optics and therefore meant to generate different reactions. Many persons have condemned that. They are of the view that her participation in that show and her winning that crown, was a veneration or glorification of crime and a kind of subtle encouragement rather than a deprecation of her conduct. Now, the Constitution says that although she's undergoing a trial, she's still presumed innocent until she's found guilty. And she's entitled to take advantage of the benefit of the constitutional provision that says that she's presumed innocent in the eye of the law until she's found guilty. But let me just say generally that prisoners, by virtue of being prisoners, are not stripped totally of the plenitudes of their human rights. Granted that some of these rights and their exercise are constrained when they're in prison, for example, the right to freedom of movement, right to liberty, and so on and so forth. But the law says that they are not stripped of their rights. And indeed, there are provisions of our law and there are protocols of the UN system, and I'll reference them, that allow them to continue to enjoy their rights. A couple of them. The United Nations basic principles for treatment of prisoners and the United Nations standard minimum rules for treatment of prisoners, to which Nigeria, subscribe, make provisions for the treatment of prisoners generally. And the two categories of prisoners, those who are awaiting trial or those who are undergoing trial, and those who are already convicted, including condemned convicts, all of them. For example, many people may not know this. When you go to prison, you see uniformed prisoners and you see the ones that are not uniformed. The ones that are not uniformed are undergoing trial, and they are entitled to continue to wear their own clothes. They are entitled, under these protocols, to continue to eat their food prepared for them from home without eating the notorious prison beans, so to speak. They are entitled to a number of things. They are entitled to have a library. They are entitled to all that. The basic principles for treatment of prisoners, and I'm referencing Article 6 of it, provides that all prisoners have a right to participate in cultural activities and education for the promotion and enhancement of their human personality. And the standard minimum rules also similarly provides, Article 21, they can provide in sporting activities. Indeed, all sporting facilities should be provided for them. So when you look at all those,
okay,
it will not be difficult for you to come to a conclusion that this lady has a right to participate in that activity. As a matter of fact, she has a right not to be discriminated against under our Constitution. For example, if others are participating, others that are regarded as persons who have not committed heinous crimes or who are not accused of these crimes, and is isolated or excused, of course, our right to freedom from discrimination will have been implicated by that kind of isolation.
But you, in all of these, Mele, you began by talking about the position, well, this issue in the eye of the public, as you said, assumed because of the processes that went ahead before that. You've talked about the legality of this issue. Does the law in any way also factor in the morality, wherein the people who are directly affected by what she's been accused of may not have closure yet?
Well, I understand the sensitivity of the matter, and I understand that people are hurt and all that. But you know, law is law. Morality is not law. Indeed, law can be a codification of morality. But we adjudge human conduct under our law on the basis of legal provisions, not on the basis of morality. I understand it. Look, and
I'm sorry, Mr. Muye. You also cited the role of society. Our society, you would know, abhors certain behavior, rightly or wrongly. You also cited the issue of what the Constitution says about being innocent until proven guilty. I remember a conversation with Professor Emeritus Akin Oyebode, who said we need to also consider the position of the law where you are guilty until proven innocent. Do you see any?
No. That will still be law. Guilty until you are proven innocent, that will still be law, meaning that there must have been a codification of that. You know, you talk about strict liability, that strictly you are liable. So you will be the one to now say, no, I'm not guilty. But that will still be law.
If someone is guilty until proven innocent, would he still have the will they still be able to participate in such activities as you have talked about?
Well, that's hypothetical. It's a hypothetical question. In reality, if the presumption of innocence is substituted by what you're saying, in respect of a particular allegation, in respect of a particular charged crime, one may then say that, look, this is not a positive thing, and this shouldn't have happened. But let me just say this, generally, for our viewers to know that I understand, the feelings and all that. The person in question has a trajectory. And a lot of people are bound to say, this lady again. Recall that after the murder of Usifo Ataga, allegedly by the lady, and there was an arrest, Nigerians started seeing things that are very strange. And until today, I challenge the police. They've not come out clean. The lady was in custody, and she was granting interviews. And these interviews were being aired all over the world, where she was now talking about her innocence, not in a court of law. And then people are wondering, so a lady who is accused of this egregious crime could have the latitude to deliver a speech from the throne.
First, is that unlawful?
That was unlawful.
Okay, so this one is
That
unconstitutional.
was unlawful. It was. And people can say the right to freedom of speech. This has not been done. But she was in custody. And so that colored public's perception. It affected the public's appreciation of the matter, that why is this lady being treated differently? And so you then have this. So if you look at that backdrop, it's possible that people will say that this is a continuation of what had happened. And so they are bound to be, negative reactions to this and say, look, why should this continue? Are there things that we do not know about these executive criminal defendants? Are there forces that are promoting this, or these are just happenstances or coincidences? If you ask me, which of the two that have brought into our public, discourse now was more surprising, I would say the interview with the police, with the backdrop and well turned out, and then she was well composed, and she was delivering a speech as
Mr. Ogwe, on the back of that, we've seen the police time and again parade suspects, and they allow those suspects speak to the press. Sort of, in fact, the press, you see them doing a back and forth. What happened? Tell us what happened. How did this happen and all that? So we've seen that. Is that not a similar case to what happened with her being interviewed? This is just on the side, by the way.
Whether we have the prevalence of that conduct or not, it doesn't detract from the fact that it is illegal, it's unconstitutional, it's unprofessional.
So the police,
the police
is breaking the law, they are meant to
and we've
enforce.
just had a recent one now, the BRT bus driver. There is a specific law in Lagos State, Section 9A of the Administration of Criminal Justice Law of Lagos State, that has prohibited that in Lagos State. And look, why won't that be unprofessional? That you have a situation whereby we have a situation whereby people will be going on operations, Abakari, for example, and that example is not far-fetched. And the social media will be awash with how they are carrying guns in the bush and all that. Their number will be known. How many of them are on the team? Giving critical intel to those that they are supposed to fight. Okay, so there's so much recklessness, so much unprofessionalism, and it's also because of the social media thing. Before somebody is arrested, policemen will use their cell phone and then be interviewing the person, conducting on the road interview. Well, are you sure you didn't do that? You did it, and all that. That kind of thing. That shouldn't happen.
And it's
because the judge that is going to determine the matter at the end of the day, although the law expects him to behave like an ostrich, are not affected by all that will have been discussed. You should just look within 4 walls of the case file, the evidence adduced and all that, to adjudicate and determine the guilt or the non-guilt of an accused person. That judge lives in our society. He reads newspaper. Perhaps he has a social media handle, even though he may not be active on
and it's on the back of that, Mr. Ogunye, that this case now raised a lot of eyebrows, saying that, I mean, we talk about the family, the morality of it. There are people who haven't gotten closure yet and still waiting to see how this process will go. I mean, they'd say something is sub judice, you shouldn't damage the rest. I think that's what it said and all that. Essentially to ensure that the case is watertight. So whatever comes out of it is justice that is seen to be done, not just justice done. So in terms of morality, seeing that this case, I mean, the intricacies of this case, the peculiarity of this case, would it have been bad for, the prison officials to say, well, you could just step aside? I mean, this is not just us trying to impinge on your human rights, but because of the peculiarity of this case. So we don't have this kind of uproar. And, I mean, you said that perhaps there's some executive treatment and all that. Wouldn't it have been, fair or made sense to say, you know what, just step aside?
When right, anchored on law, clashes with morality, right triumphs over morality. I'm sorry. If she has a right to participate, and she says that she says she wanted to participate, it would have been wrong for the prison authority to say you can't participate because And let me say this. Let me draw a parallel so that you know, in this country, and people forget this easily, one man, amongst other persons, was accused of the murder of a sitting Attorney General of the Federation. He contested an election for a Senate seat in that prison, and he won. And he went on to serve out his term as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and he was the chair of a committee. It's still politically relevant, and who knows what may happen tomorrow. He may turn out to be a governor of his state tomorrow. It happened in this country.
Was that right?
So, I'm saying that it happened in this country.
No, the fact that it's happened doesn't mean it should keep happening.
It was right in the eye of the law because the law didn't forbid that.
So that was constitutional as well?
The law didn't forbid that. Of course, people were angry. Of course, people drew inferences. Of course, people said that, how could this happen? Particularly because it was political, right? How could this happen? The PDP did this, and so on and so forth. But that happened in this country. So if you are to look at the two Pageant show, few smiles, participate, lipstick, everything, the glitz, Miss Cell, and compare that to a situation whereby an Attorney General of the Federation was the victim of that horrendous crime, and people were accused of committing that crime, and while they were in prison, filled in INEC form, didn't campaign openly, participated in the election, and he was elected.
But doesn't this all glamorize? I mean, yes, it's still a case that is ongoing, but I mean, seeing the attachments, the fact that a murder was committed, doesn't it glamorize? People say and say, okay, I mean, you can be a superstar even if, I mean, you have a case around you anyway. So, I mean, what does that do to the morality of the society? That's a question.
I think that the issue of morality that we're talking about, we need to be very clear on what is immoral here. If a person accused of crime is not brought to justice, that would be immoral. That would be immoral. Don't forget that even for a convict, either a condemned convict or a person sentenced to prison term, after that, the Constitution sees talk about prerogative of mercy. Oh yes, it's constitutional. And after a court of law had decided the case, what then happens? An executive working through the prerogative of mercy committee based on recommendation can vary the decision of a court of law without an appeal, or even after appeal has been exhausted. That's what would be immoral. What is more immoral, in my view, is a situation whereby there are a number of persons on death row in Nigeria, and then the executive don't sign the death warrant. And don't tell me about what Amnesty International or anybody may be saying about no to death penalty. It's in our law. The legislature has a right to sanitize our law and abrogate the death penalty. But that law has not been abrogated as we speak. And this executive governor sit down there, signing budgets and all that, and they refuse to sign the death warrant. And every day, and now we're talking about murder, every day, people accused of capital offenses are investigated by the police. Investigation resources are expended. Prosecutorial resources are expended. Adjudicatory resources are expended. The judge on that day, in a somber mood, will even don a red gown and soberly pronounce that death sentence. And then the executive is there. He's not doing it. That's the immorality of it.
Okay. Now,
that's more immoral in my judgment than the beauty pageant thing.
Now, you cited these two cases, both of them involving murder. Now, it would seem then that there is a lacuna in the law that maybe we can say hasn't factored in the moral suasion of the society in such cases as this. Now, would you subscribe to a situation where certain classifications of crimes are allocated in such a way that such privileges as campaigning for an election or participating in such social activities are taken out of their rights?
No. I won't. If you look at, you must look at our penal system. Particularly the reformatory aspect. I have taken out I represented an ex-prisoner in a case who was denied a certificate by his university on the ground of character. He was in final year. He had an issue before he came to the university while working in a bank. And so he was attending court, and then the matter went south, and, he was sentenced. After he was sentenced, he came back to the university to continue. He was allowed to continue. So he finished the course, and he wanted the certificate. And the university UNN on that occasion said, no, on the ground of character, we cannot give you a certificate. And I said, in our prisons, people write UME. They write, and all that, and we went to court, and, we never got a satisfactory judgment and all that, because the court vindicated the right of the university to hold on to a certificate on the ground of character and all that. I wasn't persuaded, but we didn't push the matter further on appeal because it involved a lot. I'm saying that a prisoner is not denied his rights just because he's a prisoner. There are certain rights he cannot implement. And Ayo, that, in the 70s, some condemned armed robbers, notorious armed robbers, will be going to the Babish to be executed publicly. And they will still be demanding for cigarettes. And their cigarette will be given them. Of course, you could say that, why should you give cigarette to somebody who has been condemned, who's going to die? And you encourage other people to be smoking? And all that. Even a prisoner who is condemned to death, by pronouncement of a court that said that you'll be hung on the neck until you be dead. If that prisoner is killed by gun, by bullet, you violated his right. Because the court has pronounced how he must be executed. This may sound as very niceties of law. We are not bothered about this. Let's be fundamental. It is wrong. What is wrong is wrong. But I'm saying that our duty, even while the public is up in arms against certain practices, in the interest of public enlightenment, as public intellectuals, in the realm of public intellection, we have a duty to have a dispassionate view. We can make impassioned speeches about things, but I am saying that prisoners have rights. And for me, I'm interested in the family of Usufa Atanga. In Usufa Atanga, who is dead now. In the Nigerian state, whose law has been violated allegedly, okay. And in this lady getting justice at the end of the day. Expeditious justice. I am not satisfied when you have a situation of, for example, the Evans situation, for months and years before we had a closure. So I want expeditious determination of justice. If that is guaranteed, and that's fair, and that's just, the public will be satisfied ultimately, and the public will not be bothered by these,
sounds like you're not satisfied with the pace of the trial so far. Well, sounds like you're not satisfied with the pace.
I'm not saying that. I'm satisfied, but I think that there are certain things that look. I want to do a paper, and this, like I'm letting out of the bag. I want to do a paper on the need to have a fast-track system for criminal trials.
Okay.
Already we have a fast-track system for our civil proceedings. At least in Lagos State, there's a fast-track system. You file a case, civil action, you want it to be expeditiously determined and all that. But there are certain cases that are so important. Okay. And so there should be a procedure by which, once a criminal charge is laid, the Attorney General could make an application to the CJ of a state and say, put this on the fast track. So that on a day-to-day basis, you can have that trial in 6 months.
To be resolved.
It will be resolved. And the public will then know that the
justice
law
has been
is
served.
working.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for that paper, Kayode, by the way, that's Law 101 for you. Mark, you have a few questions.
Indeed, I was just going to ask whether if it would have made a difference. I know Kayode raised this question that she was an awaiting, or she is an awaiting trial inmate. Do you think that prison authorities should have been able to sort out between awaiting trial inmates and convicted inmates? Because at least we know that the cases of convicted inmates are already settled before the law. You already made the point that she is innocent until proven guilty, but the charges hanging over her are quite heavy. So do you think that the prison authorities should have been a little more circumspect? Because these pictures were not just meant for the consumption of the inmates. Now they have found their way into the public sphere. Do you think that they should have been a little more circumspect about the sort of, awaiting trial inmates and those who have already been convicted?
Well, circumspection, thank you, Mope, for that question. Circumspection, every administrative authority usually has a statutory duty to perform, and in performing that statutory duty, they're given areas where they can exercise their discretion. So circumspection may then come in that regard, and the prison authority could have said, oh, look, how will the public see this? Overridingly, I have said that prisoners have rights that they're entitled to. In other jurisdictions, conjugal visits are even allowed for married couples. So, meaning that married couple could father children while they're in prison. Oh, yes. And so if that were to be here, of course, I'm sure that a lot of people that will say that, what kind of country is this? Somebody is accused of this crime. He's still being allowed to visit by his boyfriend and all that. What kind of society is this? I know that, but, well, the prison authorities, perhaps, I'm not sure they were the ones who released those photographs that we've seen to the public. Maybe they thought that this will be confined to the prisons. So we'll be confined to the prisons.
Sorry.
Yes.
Well, you answered the question, and I really hate to interrupt, but you said that, you know, people will ask, what sort of society is this? You know, where, boyfriends are allowed to visit their girlfriends in prison. And then there is a marked difference between a conjugal visit, which is, you know, a union recognized by law, and a courtship, for instance. Those are two different scenarios.
Yes.
Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I use the word conjugal. Conjugation is a consequence of a marriage, you know, between two adults who are married. And that's why I talked about conjugal visit. But I'm even saying that if that were to be the case, conjugal visit, the people who are bound to still raise eyebrow. And I'm saying that on this one, I know what the moral issues are, but I will lean on the side of rights and law. I'm more concerned about the justice of the substantive matter that is before the court and how the court will deal with that issue. Whether the lady participated in a relay race within the precincts, whether she was part of the judoka team of the prison, she participated in the Pageant show. I don't think that the public should be too worried about that. The public should be concerned about the justice of the matter in court. And I think that that's what is more important.
I'm trying to make a differentiation here. And you've raised, you know, other questions which I have raised with my colleagues. If you can hear me, I've asked if this, for instance, where some inter-cell sport, which was done, maybe as you talked about relay race, or wearing a sackcloth to run, and she came first. You know, I've asked questions whether the public will feel as outraged as they feel as her contesting in a beauty pageant. I mean, there are questions as to why the public does feel quite angry, because obviously she is a sight to behold. However, I mean, which obviously will seem, you know, got the gentleman involved in such a way that he is now no more. So there are questions as to that. Then we're not talking about whether or not the prison authorities should have been, are there differentiation in the rights between awaiting trial inmates and those who are already convicts. The law has already found them guilty, and we know what their fate is in the eyes of the law. Should there have been a differentiation between those, between this category of people and those, you know, those on the other side whom the law had already condemned?
No. It says all prisoners. I have referenced protocols, United Nations protocols here, that all prisoners have the right to participate in cultural activities and in education for the promotion and enhancement of their human personality. I have referenced it here. And so, regardless of whether a prisoner is condemned or is been sentenced to, is a convict or is not a convict, all prisoners, detainees are entitled to participate who are in prisons. They are entitled to be treated, you know, in certain respect the same way. There are some differentiation, though, and categorization recognized by these rules and principles and protocols in terms of, you know, how they are segmented, how they live, the cells they should be put. And so there's demarcation, condemned criminal cells, and so on and so forth. You have those things here. I've talked about the clothing, the kind of the clothes they should wear while in prison. Condemned or convicted prisoners are uniformed. Those who are not awaiting trial prisoners are not uniformed, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But regarding the issue of the right to participate in this kind of activities, I don't think that the prison or correctional authorities have heard in this regard.
We have to thank you very much for your participation in our program this morning. GT Okoye is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for your time. Well, we indeed asked you earlier to let us know how much you buy fuel where you are. That's where we begin with in your contribution to the program today. Chukwemeka Okoji, in his response, says, we used to buy fuel for 275 naira. Some of the fueling stations sold for 255 naira. Some sell for 280. This is our situation in Jos.
Well, over to Nasarawa State, where Kende Emmanuel says you hardly get fuel from major marketers. Few independent marketers selling price ranges from 265 naira to 400 naira per litre. That's for PMS or petrol, and 625 naira for AGU. That's diesel.
And Dixon says fuel is sold between 195 naira to 230 naira per litre in Efrun and Warri in Delta State. Besides the high cost, most fuel stations have adjusted their meters, thereby cheating unsuspecting customers. That's from Dixon Arumawe.
Saul says about the ASUU strike, it's easy to imagine ASUU is wrong, but each time we look at how the broke FG spends and blows away the little money available, you cannot afford to blame any union making demands, whether reasonable or otherwise. This broke government recently sent money to Afghanistan government. We need to ask how much the FG spends each time the president goes to see doctors in London. How much do we spend to keep our plane in the hangar in London? That's from Saul Adeleke.
Well, Ejike says, I'm a software engineer. Software testing is an iterative process. If the software does not meet minimum test benchmarks, this should not be grounds for discarding UTAS, our homegrown payment system. Furthermore, acquiring a data center is not a big deal. It's an opportunity to build one of our universities. The federal government should not renege on its 2009 agreement. Oil prices are through the roof. No more excuses. Save our universities, please. That's the plea from Ejike Eze. And that's where we'll have to wrap up comments this beautiful Friday morning. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokpe Ogun Yusuf.
Absolutely. Save our universities. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. God bless Nigeria.
Amen.